Thank you all for bearing with me and seeing that presentation and some of our partners. You saw some of the campaigns that we've been working on for years, and we are working on this year. I just want to thank some of our partners while we have them before we continue. The Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty is an organization not only of faith leaders, but of policy advocates. And some of our partners include the Economic Progress Institute, Kids Count, Rhode Island Council of Churches, the Rhode Island Center for Justice, the Immigrant Coalition, the Homes Rhode Island Coalition, the Justice Coalition, and all of you. So I thank you for that. Next, I would like to call Rabbi Rachel Zerin, who is going to give us more words of encouragement.
Sorry about that, folks. What is the blessing that we are most in need of as we enter this new year? As I've been thinking about this question, I have been reflecting on the fact that Jewish communities around the world are beginning to read the book of Exodus this very week. The book in which we read our people's foundational story of being slaves and being liberated from that slavery. This story becomes the central narrative of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, and it becomes the most oft-cited justification for a commandment. Why is this narrative so central to the Torah and to our sense of identity? Perhaps it is because the central message of the Torah is that our trauma should move us not to apathy, nor to perpetration of further trauma, but to empathy and action. I invite you to breathe that in with me. The central message of the Torah is that we allow our trauma to move us to empathy and action. We are taught in the Torah, remember that you were slaves in Egypt, that you had no choice but to work day in and day out. Therefore, observe the Sabbath day of rest, you and all your household, including your workers. Turn the trauma of endless work into empathy and action, providing rest for those who work for you. Remember that you were strangers in a land not your own, the Torah says. You know the soul of the stranger, therefore, do not oppress the stranger. Turn the trauma of oppression and being othered into empathic care for those who might be oppressed or othered. Therefore, we turn to you today, Makor Chaim, source of all life, Rofei Vishvurei Lev, healer of broken hearts, and ask that you open our hearts and the hearts of our state leadership so that we remember the experiences of this past year and allow the memory of our losses and our traumas to move us to create a better state and a better world. May we remember the worry we felt at the prospect of being stricken by an illness our doctors did not yet know how to treat, and be reminded of those who cannot access affordable, quality health care. May that memory move us to fight for affordable and accessible health care for all, and to fight against bias within the healthcare system that results in unequal treatment for women, the obese, the disabled, and people of color. May we remember the times we struggled to find milk or toilet paper in stores, and be reminded that 1 in 4 households in Rhode Island lack adequate food on an ongoing basis. May that memory move us to provide sufficient, nutritious food for all. May those of us who are privileged to have housing, but who remember how claustrophobic our homes felt as we sheltered in place, be reminded that over 4,000 Rhode Islanders do not have any homes, and tens of thousands more are cost burdened by housing expenses. May that memory move us to ensure that safe, affordable housing is a right for all. May those of us who are privileged by virtue of being white remember the outrage we felt as spring turned to summer at the deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and so many other people of color. May we remember that our Black siblings do not have the privilege of relaxing once racism is no longer a front-page headline. May their memories move us to examine and transform our own internal biases and the systemic racism in our state and our country. May those of us who experience anxiety and depression as we faced social isolation remember that many do not have access to mental health care. May that memory, along with the memories of those who have lost their lives to suicide, move us to make mental health care available and accessible to all. May those of us who safely sheltered in place with our families, but felt frustration at being with the same people 24/7, remember those who were sheltered in place with their abusers. May that memory move us to do more to end domestic violence and to provide resources to those trying to leave abusive relationships. May we remember our worry that children would not be educated when schools closed in March and be reminded of those who regularly lack sufficient educational resources. May that memory move us to do better for our schools, our teachers, and our students. May those of us who were overwhelmed by caring for young children when schools and daycares closed be reminded that safe childcare is always out of reach for many. May that memory move us to fight for safe, affordable childcare for all. May we and our elected officials take to heart the central message of your teaching that our trauma should move us not to apathy, nor to perpetration of trauma, but to empathy and action. As we enter 2021 and a new legislative session, we ask that the work of our hands and the prayers of our hearts be blessed. We ask for comfort as we mourn all those who have been lost. We ask for the ability to breathe deeply, deep enough to access the animating breath of the divine that is found within all of us. We ask for resilience in the face of unimaginable challenges. And we ask that the experiences we have had this year move us to create a better state and a better world. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be your will.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Zerin. That was wonderful and powerful. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your time, for being here.